Hey, what's up, everyone? Happy Tuesday. Looking forward to talking to you guys. It's another beautiful day here in sunny Southern California. I just got done watching the Apple event. I don't know if you saw some of the new announcements, but it's pretty exciting, so I'm pretty stoked about it. If you're just tuning in, hello. Welcome to another creator coaching session here behind the brand live. I'm Brian Elliott, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm watching from Los Angeles. I'm in LA. I'll say hello. Watching from Denver. What's up in Denver? How are the fires? Is everything, we've had fires here too, but how's everything in Denver? Getting better, I hope? Watching from Chicago. What's up, Chicago in the house? So if you're new to this, I try to do this every week where I'm doing a live Q&A session where it's YouTube creator or photography or video or podcast creator or whatever kind of creator you are, and also doing sort of a live brand marketing and strategy Q&A session. I have welcome Mohammed, Saudi Arabia. Nice. Answering your questions about marketing and advertising, building a brand, some of the stuff that I know a little bit about, which is YouTube growth hacking or audience development or video production, podcast production, YouTube channel stuff. I've been on a flurry of production, so it's really fun. I've been just swamped really doing all the post-production on all these videos. I've had like back-to-back shoots, and I've done a ton of stuff recently, so I've just been in post-production and trying to knock that out for you guys. Tell me if you're watching, what is one of the more recent videos that you've seen? Just so I have some context. And then start dropping me questions like what you'd like to know. Today is pretty free-flowing. I'm talking about some of the stuff that I know a little bit of something about. If you don't know about my production background, I will give you the link here. Here's the link to my website, my production website. And that maybe give you a little bit of background on me. I started this company at the end of 2007, heading into 2008, with the idea, I left the studios. I was at Universal Picture, and I sort of left the studios thinking that I would start my own production company focused on creating original content, mainly for the digital space. That was my vision. And it really hasn't changed that much. Hello from Ohio. Welcome. I was in Ohio last year, sort of in the Columbus area, like the kind of by Ohio State University area. Where was that? Dublin. Great area. I had no idea it's such a food scene there. Columbus and that area has got like amazing food scene, especially up more towards the college. It seems like there's that restaurant row. I was super impressed. It was legit. Some of the videos that I created this week, we were with Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer. That was pretty fun. Caesar and I are old friends. We met maybe about 10 years ago, and he was on the show about 7 years ago and shared with me his whole story. And now he's sort of been through it all over again, kind of reinventing the wheel. And just like in true Caesar form, he's had a lot of hardships. He's gone through a lot of things, and he continues to reinvent himself. And I think it's amazing. Oh, you live in Columbus. Yeah. Do you know that Dublin area that I'm talking about? That restaurant row? I can't remember where it's at. Yeah, it is. It's really big. Beautiful area. But Caesar was great. He has a 40 plus acre ranch in LA. Perfect for all kinds of animals. He's got llamas, turtles, of course, dogs. I'll try and drop that link if you haven't seen it. But he was telling me about, how he has to sort of start all over again. He's got a lot of good people around him. That's not always the case. Sometimes the people take advantage of him, of his kindness. I'll drop that link right here. And so he told me about some stories of betrayal and how he's always struggling to find people that he can trust. I think part of Caesar's challenge is that he operates a lot like the way dogs operate. And there's no bad dogs. Like, he's just very, natural about things. He does his job. He expects other people to do theirs. And so sometimes, people don't operate as authentically as dogs, or as, just as natural and instinctual as dogs. And so Caesar sometimes gets burnt by that. And he shared with me that story. I thought it was super useful. The other thing useful and interesting about that interview was about this matchmaking. So I put "Who's Your Match" as the title of that video, but it has little to do with finding a dog, even though, I love dogs. We rescued 2 dogs, a brother and sister, at like 10 weeks a couple of years ago, and they've grown up and they're amazing dogs. His talk, I think, is very applicable to other people who are trying to, find their place with their, romantic partner or in business. And he was talking about this idea of being in a pack, and you're either in the front, the middle, or the back. Neither position is good or bad. It's just where you are. So, for example, if you're introverted, you might be more in the back of the pack, or extroverted, you might be more in the front of the pack. But each member of the pack is valuable and it has their place. And so sometimes if you have 2 front of the pack people, they tend to be incompatible. So like a front of the pack will be more compatible with a middle or back of the pack person. And so I thought that was really interesting, and maybe crossing over to helping people find either their like dream job or their romantic partner, or even if you're with someone right now, kind of figure out that other person to understand them a little bit on deeper levels. And so that was kind of cool. We have Mumbai, India in the house. Thank you. Let me know if you're watching. Start dropping some questions, and I'd love to start answering your questions about brand marketing, advertising, strategy, whether it's building a brand, or if you have a campaign going, or if you're thinking about a side hustle, or if you have video production questions or audio podcasts, you're thinking about starting your own podcast. Let me know what you want to know. This is your time. I've got limited time here because I've got to get back to the edits, but I wanted to check in here with you guys, chat, see what's going on, and also try to provide as much value as I can in a short amount of time. So drop your questions. Tony wants to know, have you been affected by COVID? Absolutely. So fortunately, we've been healthy. No issues and no health problems. We've basically been sheltering in place. And when we go out, we go to the grocery store, or the gas station, or whatever, we're wearing masks. We're trying to be safe and smart. Our kids are going to school remotely. So the school offered to have kids come back in person, and we declined doing that because we just think it's too early. It doesn't make sense. And so they are doing remote learning from home via the computer. That's not been the easiest thing, but it seems to be the smartest answer for us personally. So that's what we're doing. My wife has a small business. I'll try and drop her link here because she has a cool business. Let's see, Instagram.com/John by Design. Shout out to my wife's company. She has a furniture restoration business. And rather than working with wood or building, her specialty is more in the reimagining, or restoring in terms of like painting, waxing, refinishing. And so she'll often take a piece that's in your house that you either doesn't fit your style anymore or you want to get rid of, and she will reimagine it and make it seem amazing. And or she can find something for you, and you say, I need an armoire, or I need a end table, or I need da 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 da. She'll go find it and then create it to your custom specs. So I think she's been doing awesome. But yes, our businesses have both been affected by COVID, just like everybody else. Definitely business is slower than usual, but at the same time, it's ramping up in certain areas. Like the remote stuff that we're doing is much busier. And so we're trying to, evolve and pivot with the needs of our clients. And so we're making adjustments. That said, yes, everything is slow. Everyone's, my clients are on sort of a let's wait and see mode. I think for us, it looks like probably next year, 2021 is going to start to get back to normal. We're hoping. If you're just tuning in, let me know where you're watching from. Start dropping in more questions so I can start scanning through these and start answering some of your questions. Let's see. Do you have tips for marketing podcasts? How to improve podcasts in general? I work in the video game industry. I'd like to know a little bit more context in that. Like, are you trying to start your own video game related podcast? If so, we talk on this channel a lot about the two most important questions you can start with just about any venture, and that is, who's it for and what's it for? And the who's it for question is really important. So to say that, my podcast or my show is broadly appealing, even though that may be true, you don't want to try and, reach everyone, because when you're trying to reach everyone, you reach no one. And unless you have like the biggest budget in the world, that's usually not the best strategy. The best strategy is to really niche down and really, really focus on who your audience is. Like, who is it for? Who are you talking to? So is it a podcast for gamers? Okay, so gamers also span a wide gamut in terms of psychographic and demographic. Is this PC gamers? Is this, mobile game users? Is this, teenage, maybe under 20? Maybe we talk about a demographic issue. When you really, really niche down and figure out who your audience is, it makes it so much easier to know what to say and how to say it. Because, the way you talk to a teenager to appeal to, like my son is 12, he plays Fortnite and he plays Roblox and he plays, what's that soccer game with the car that hits the soccer ball? I can't remember, but he loves it. That's a very different way of talking than talking to someone like me who also loves games, but at a different level, playing in a different game, whether that's Call of Duty or, whatever it is. So figure out who you're talking to, who's it for, and then what's it for. So what does your podcast do? What interesting problem does it solve? Does it, make someone's life easier? Take a look at, the company Uber or Lyft, right? These are rideshare companies. And this is the problem that they solve is not about, replacing the taxi. The problem that rideshare services solve is convenience. It's time. They're really time savers. You can go on your phone and, in about 15 seconds, call up a ride, and you could have it come to your custom location and knows your custom number, and it's all paid turnkey through your phone usually. Boom. That's a time saver. It's not, has little to do with transportation and everything to do with time and convenience. So focus on what your podcast does. What is it for? What interesting problem does it solve? Or what value does it provide? And that's my best advice about where to start with that. Okay, I'm getting some more info here about the game. I'll take a look at that while I look at some other questions. If you're just tuning in, I'm broadcasting live from Los Angeles, from my little home studio. You can see some of my skateboards and things behind me. These are loaded boards, by the way. The one in the middle is a boosted board, but boosted is out of business, as you may know. So I am going with loaded boards, which is another story coming on behind the brand soon. And a little sneak peek or spoiler alert, Loaded Boards was the company that provided a lot of the hard goods to boosted boards while they were in business. So like the orangutan wheels, the bamboo deck, and trucks and wheels and all that kind of stuff, components that help make that board great. So that should be a fun story. But yeah, let me know where you're watching from. Drop me a question in the comments and I'll do my best to answer your questions. Let's see. The iPhone 12 launch was a spectacle. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Apple team, the production value on those things is ridiculous. And I guess it's what you would expect from a company with $1 trillion in gross revenue. I think the bar is set very high, and the Apple event was great as expected. Sometimes I think we take for granted, I don't know how you feel about this, but I think we take for granted the kind of innovation, either, with companies, but really companies are just people. And the type of innovation and intelligence and, thinking that we have, these brains that we have here in 2020, it's remarkable. People like the people that work at Apple, whether that's Tim Cook or if you're a fan of Steve Jobs, who started the whole thing, or people like Elon Musk, or other innovators in other areas, whether that's science or mathematics or dance or photography or literally every industry that you can think of. We have some pretty remarkable people, and I think sometimes we take that for granted. We just expect great products, we expect things to work, but it really is a marvel. And it really is, with all the tough stuff going on right now, it really is an amazing time to be alive, isn't it? You have to step back and just breathe it in and really feel the sense of gratitude just to be alive. One of the things that makes me think about this, I'm getting older, I'm starting to think about my health. I had a blood panel done today, just, health and wellness. It's something that I wish I had done from my 20s. And if you're watching, I would highly recommend you get a detailed blood panel test, which is basically checking your levels. Like you take your car and to get your oil change, check the levels. Look at cholesterol and your hormones and all these other things, the triglycerides and blah blah blah, to see how you're doing. I wish I had done this from age 20 every single year, like once a year, every 12 months. I wish I'd gotten a blood panel just to have a comparison. I've started doing it later in my life now, every year. But it's such a helpful thing to have as you look back and can compare, how your levels were from last year to this year. Anyway, for someone who is thinking about his health, cholesterol levels and keeping my heart healthy and my brain healthy and everything else working healthy, I highly recommend doing that. And you can usually get it done. I can't speak for other parts of the world, but for the United States, it's usually done through your insurance company, or like me, I've actually paid a private company to come out, mobile service, and have it done. And I send it back to a lab and I get the results, and then I get to keep the results and then share them with my doctor or my doctors, and they all, get access to the information and can let me know whether I should drink more water or take more vitamin D or magnesium or whatever's happening. So highly recommend that. All right, please continue to drop your questions. I would love to know what you'd like to know about brand marketing, advertising, some of these other topics that I know something about, video production. Let's see, your website. What is your influencer marketing and how does that work? What do you do or not do in details that would like, okay. So you have a taxi company. Okay, so Clay, thanks for this question. Influencer marketing is really putting hands together, the hands of the brand and the hands of an influencer. So let's say that you have a taxi company like you do, and you're looking for someone to be able to help spread the word, an influencer, spread the word about your company. So we would go out and find someone who is appropriately matched or aligned with your brand and your vision and your products and services. and who is an influencer. And that doesn't have to be, someone like Casey Neistat, who has 10 million subscribers, or Mr. Beast, who has 40 million subscribers. This could be a micro influencer. And I think to define micro influencer, it could be someone like me. I have a couple 100,000 subscribers right now. It's not a couple million, but it's a couple 100,000. And yet I'm influential in my space. And so, influence, I think, can be defined as, or you could look at things like engagement and poll, how much weight that person's opinion has. And it may have nothing to do with the optics or the metrics of subscribers and views. It may have more to do with the actual, results of that person's efforts. So we would help match you with someone, find someone who is aligned with your brand, and then help promote a story or talk about what you want to talk about. And it's usually story driven or experiential or testimonial based. So I hope that helps. We've done quite a bit of that. Clay is in Maine. Thank you, Clay. Tony wants to know, do you guys involve your kids in your business to teach them? Absolutely. Limited though. I mean, it's well, some of it's required, right? Like you might call it a chore. Like, hey, dad needs help carrying out all his camera gear to the car. Could you please help? And like, I don't give them much choice. I say, please help me. It's like, please go do the dishes. In other times, I say, hey, I'm going out to film with Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer, in Santa Clarita at a 40-acre ranch. I know you love dogs. Do you want to come along and ride shotgun? Like, do you want to hold my microphone, or do you want to help me set things up, be my key grip? And then, of course, I pay them a reasonable hourly rate, which is, usually minimum wage, whatever, $15 an hour. And then, yeah, they help out. It's great. And that is on a volunteer basis, because one of the things that I believe is that, experience matters. And also, I don't ever want to push my kids into what I want to do. I want them to, be curious. And if they're interested naturally, of course, I want to bring them along and help teach them. But if they don't have any interest in it, like I'm a filmmaker, I'm in video production, and they want to be a marine biologist, then I'm totally fine with that. And maybe they'll have interest in helping me, and I don't need to push them into that. But yeah, we try to involve them or invite them to be involved as much as possible when they're not busy doing schoolwork or other things. And it's been tremendous. More questions, keep them coming. Would love to know what you want to know. Looks like Prajesh wants to know, how can I use Pinterest to promote electrical products to architects, B2B? I love this question, and I also love B2B versus B2C questions, because they're basically the same. So B2B and B2C, like, at least in terms of the approach, who's it for and what's it for, it's the same exercise, right? As soon as you figure out that, the flow of what you should do is so much easier. The good news with B2B versus B2C, and B2C is, like direct to consumer versus direct to business, right? The good news with B2B is that I believe it's a lot easier, because the if you think about an architectural business, or you're trying to reach architects, it's not like trying to reach the masses. And so you have a fewer number of clients to reach. And, even my video production company, how many clients do I really need per month? Let's make the math easy. If my 10 clients were paying me $2,000 a month, that's $20,000 a month in revenue. I mean, I probably only need about 10 clients to, accomplish my goal, to, meet my financial needs and do the things that I want to do. And so B2B, I think, is a lot easier. Again, the approach is the same. So how can you use Pinterest to promote your electrical products? I think I would start again with, once you figure out who these people are and what they want, How can you make visually stunning or interesting, valuable Pinterest posts? And these can probably be replicated on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube for that matter. How can you solve people's problems and provide value? You really have to figure out where the value is for these architects. And I don't know because I don't market to architects, but I would think that they have particular problems that need to be solved, or they want to be inspired. Maybe they love art, and so you kind of create a museum kind of effect, and maybe that the beauty of it is what attracts them. I would focus on what's valuable, reverse engineer it, and focus on that. And then maybe something you haven't thought about is if you're focused on Pinterest, fine. Instagram's probably a no-brainer. Facebook's probably a no-brainer. But what about YouTube? Could you create the making of your Pinterest page or whatever you're going to do? Could you film that? And could you talk about it like I'm talking about it right now on camera to describe to your architects what you're doing and why you're doing it, and maybe even how you're doing it? Would that make an interesting video? Who would want to watch that? Maybe that's a thing. The thing I love about YouTube is it is the second or third largest search engine in the world. So anything you put on Pinterest, I would suggest you also consider putting on YouTube, especially if your plan is to get found by any clients, B2B or B2C. Do not underestimate the findability of this search engine, which is Google and YouTube. It's remarkable, and I think that would be my strongest recommendation. Okay, keep the questions coming. I love these. Oh yeah, Rocket League. Thanks. Yeah, I couldn't remember Rocket League. I played it a couple times, but it's not even worth playing with him anymore because he's so good. He's 12. He just mops the floor with me every single time. It's crazy. Gabriel's from Spain. Hello, Gabriel. Did you struggle with imposter syndrome at the start of your marketing career? Any tips on how to get bigger leads with full force confidence? Yes. The short answer is yes. I did struggle with imposter syndrome. I think I struggle with imposter syndrome all the time. Even now, I'm a decade plus 2 years into my startup. So I'm 12 years into my startup, and I still feel like I struggle with imposter syndrome, not as dramatically or obviously as maybe I did in the beginning. But to be honest with you, my situation when I first started was, sink or swim, survive or die. It was that, binary. And I just didn't want to give up. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to quit. And I didn't want to disappoint my family. I didn't want to, let them down because there was a lot riding on this. And I just felt like, it was the right thing to do. And I would not accept, failure or defeat. And so even though I was feeling awful about my potential, or I was feeling this imposter syndrome, I just had to put my head down and grind it out. And that's the honest answer, Gabriel. That's how I got through it. Now, what are some other things to consider now that I'm a little bit older and with a little bit more experience thinking about imposter syndrome? Sometimes I think about everyone has to start as an amateur. Literally everyone. Think of whoever you admire the most. That person had to start as an amateur too. We all have to go through this learning curve. No one, with the few exceptions of the, Mozarts of the world who are born savants and, musical geniuses that can play piano at age 2 and they're speaking at age whatever, those are the exception to the rule. The rest of us were amateurs for a while until we figure out stuff. So I think about that. And then I also think, if not me, then who? So sometimes we get into this comparison game where we think, oh, he's so much more handsome, or she's so much more beautiful, or he's so much smarter, or she's so much, she was born in this certain situation and I wasn't. And that's true. We cannot choose. There are many things that we cannot choose that are beyond our ability to choose. One of them is, where we are born in this world, to whom we are born in this world. We can't choose our skin color, race, all of these things, gets handed to us, right? Some of us are born to privilege, and some of us are born in extreme hardship and adversity, and then somewhere, everywhere in between. And so we don't get to choose any of these things. What we do get to choose is what we do after the fact. So it's like some of these things are happening to us, whether we're having imposter syndrome or we're having a really bad day or year. And so the choice is ours. Okay, now what do we do with it? Do we hide in a shell? Do we numb or escape with drugs, alcohol, or other coping mechanisms? Or do we we see this very scary barking dog, and do we run at the dog with full force and meet our fears head on and accept the consequences, metaphorically speaking? That's my recommendation is, facing fears, being smart about decisions, not risking it all, being able to fight and fail, but come back and fight another day is totally where it's at, because that's the amateur's path, right? You walk the path, you fall off the path, you fall down, scrape your knee, whatever. But if you can get back up and keep walking, you will eventually, get better at walking. You'll get to know that trail, and you may discover the path that's meant to be yours, on your way to happier, healthier, more fulfillment. So that's at least been my experience, and I hope that helps a little bit. Amit says, "Hi Brian, big fan of yours from India." Thank you so much, Amit. Heart emoji. Thank you so much. MJ, any marketing tips for musicians? Yes. Create your art. Put it out there in the right places. What are the right places for your art? And this is not just for musicians, it's for other people who create or can create. If you have IP, intellectual property, that should be out there in the world, when you're ready to put it out there, when you think it's good enough, and you have an idea who it's for, you should put it out there in the world. Because if you don't, no one's going to know about it. And so the first marketing tip for anyone who's got some sort of creative IP is to create it and put it out and ship it. Now, where do you put it? I think you can be smart about this. Where do your people hang out? So are your people on Spotify, for example, musicians? Probably. Spotify is probably a great place to put it. SoundCloud, some of these other no-brainer places. Going back to YouTube, have you guys seen this ocean spray kind of viral video that started on TikTok with this guy from Idaho who's a potato factory worker, and his truck broke down? Have you guys seen this campaign? It's amazing. And he's TikToking on his break because his car broke down. Gets on a skateboard and he's drinking the ocean spray to this Fleetwood Mac song, and it's just the coolest vibe. And he's middle-aged man, truck broke down, drinking ocean spray, just saying, "Hey, I gotta get to work somehow." Anyway, this TikTok thing goes viral. Ocean Spray finds out about it. They want to reward him and thank him for being such a loyal fan. I also want to help him out. They give him a brand new truck, and he's so excited. Now, that's just part of the story. So these other musicians, this is where MJ, I'm going back to your musician thing. So this girl just covered the Fleetwood Mac song. It was absolutely incredible. I think she did it on Instagram Reels. I don't know, she's 20-something living in Nashville. Absolutely amazing version of Fleetwood Mac's song. And that cover song has gone, again, viral. So it's like, MJ, maybe you're looking for opportunities like that to complement or ride the wave of something that's already happening. So my friend who's an author, David Meerman Scott, coined the phrase newsjacking. And what it means is basically this, that when you see something topical or you see something in the news that's hot, that's popular, you can create something and sort of ride that media wave or ride that, interest wave to also get discovered. So maybe that's my biggest marketing tip, is looking for opportunities like this Fleetwood Mac thing where she covered the song and now she is getting invited to be on the Today Show, or she's getting, millions of views to her Instagram and YouTube page as a musician. I just think, opportunities are everywhere if we look, if we're paying attention. And that's a good one. Joshua says, hey, I don't know what all these emojis are for, but hope you're doing well, brother. Thank you for checking in. Let's see. Keep the questions coming. I love it. Someone said, I just found this channel and I'm curious how you get such famous people on the show without having a huge following. Yes, it's true. I feel like this channel deserves millions too. Thank you so much. That means a lot. I joke all the time about this, that this channel is way undersubscribed. Let me give you the quick background on this. So back when I started this channel, like in 2010, I don't know where you were in 2010, but everyone who was anyone told me, hey, no one's going to watch a YouTube video that's longer than 3 minutes. In fact, like 2 minutes and 53 seconds is like the ideal video runtime mark. And for me, I was creating, long form content with people like Seth Godin or, Gary Vaynerchuk and some of these other people. And it didn't make sense. It's like, do you want to spend 3 minutes learning from Gary V, or do you want to spend 30 minutes? Well, duh, you want to spend 30 minutes, like study at the feet of the master. And so I stayed the course. I did not give in to the optics. I did not create short, less valuable, in my opinion, consumable content. Did that hurt my subscriber count and views? Absolutely. But I didn't care because I had a vision to, create value for you guys, and long form was what my format was. Keep in mind, this was also before TED Talks were popular. This is before anyone else had a show or podcast like mine. I was one of the very few, if not the only one, doing long form video. And so how did I get these amazing people? Well, they saw that I had a platform, and compare that with like what Jimmy Fallon does. So if you're in the United States, you watch the Tonight Show, Jimmy Fallon. If you're on the Jimmy Fallon show, you get 5 minutes, and 4.5 minutes is of Jimmy trying to be funny, because it's the Jimmy Fallon show. It's not the Brian Elliott show. So it's the Jimmy Fallon show. You get 4.5 minutes of Jimmy trying to be funny, and then 30 seconds to talk about what's important to you. And that's it. Then you're done. My show is 30 minutes or an hour worth of you talking about what's important to you, and you get the whole thing. It's not me trying to be funny or interrupt, or, it's me asking more questions and trying to ask the questions you guys want to ask, but it's really about the guest. And so to me, that's where the value is. And I think some of the early, icons saw the value in that. And then the other cool thing is, once you get one or two of these people to say yes, like Seth Godin or Gary V, then it really makes other super popular or, smart people, more at ease to say yes. If someone, one of their peers has already done it. So that's the trick, is if you can just get one of these people, because I love publicists, I love PR people, but publicists are kind of cowardly, in my opinion, because they never want to be first. The first question I always get asked by a publicist, by someone who's pitching me to be on my show, is, okay, so who else has done this? Someone brought up Tony Hawk. Thank you so much for watching the Tony Hawk interview, AT. I appreciate that. Tony is a legend. Loved meeting Tony. It was, a dream of mine to meet him. But before I had Tony on the show, I had Bethany Hamilton. Now, if you know Bethany, Bethany's famous for her movie Soul Surfer. She's the one she was a shark attack victim and had her arm bit off by a tiger shark in Hawaii when she was like 13 years old. And then miraculously, and with so much courage, it healed like in a few months. She's back in the water surfing with one arm. I don't know how she does it, but to me, that was like such an incredible display of courage and everything that I aspired to be. Well, I had her on the show, and Tony's people saw her, and it made it really easy for them to say yes, because, Bethany had sort of paved the way, and we'd proved the model. So, Do I care about subs? Look, there's 20 people watching right now. I wish there was 2,000 or 200,000 people watching. But at the end of the day, and this is a lesson that I learned a lot, is you have to focus on the minimum viable audience, minimum viable product, right? MVP or MVA in this case, minimum viable audience. And what that means is, like, how many people actually have to be watching for it to be okay with you? In my book, it's one person. So if one person is tuning in, that's enough. That is my minimum viable audience. I don't want to just sit here talking to myself, although sometimes I do when I'm making videos. Eventually that gets seen by you. But like if I'm doing this live thing and just one of you shows up, that is my minimum viable audience. And so what is the minimum viable audience in your industry, whether you're a musician or trying to, market B2B to architects or whatever your business is? Focus on the minimum viable audience. How many people do you actually need to, be watching or to be your client to keep you in business? And that's what I focus on. So yes, I wish I had millions and millions of subscribers, but we keep doing our thing, for better or for worse. We're doing this long form show, and YouTube definitely throttles our growth. They reward videos that are, watch time is an important metric, but let's face it, they really reward the creators that get the most amount of people watching the most amount for the longest amount of time. And so if you're not that, it throttles your growth. And that's why we don't have the optics. But I really don't care, because we're trying to provide value to one person or more, and that's enough to float this boat. So thank you so much for your support. It means everything. We're fiercely independent. It's self-funded. This is, way beyond labor of love. This has become an integral part of my business strategy and business model. Part of my production company business is being a writer, director, producer, and the visibility that this show gives me, along with being aligned with super smart people like the Simon Sinek or, Ryan Serhant. Did you guys see that with Ryan Serhant out of New York? Ryan was amazing. I love that video. I will try and drop a link here in the description. Ryan was amazing, super generous. We had this remote chat from his swanky New York office, but he's changing the game, and he's done it with content. You should try and take a page from his playbook, which is really a page from Gary's playbook or my playbook, which is content as a strategy. And that's been a game changer. So this show, these live broadcasts are, a big part of me building my brand, engaging with you. I get to also find out like what's important. That helps me create shows. Mark, thank you for the shout out. I will keep crushing it, brother. Thank you so much. Okay, so it looks like you have a podcast. Yeah, send me an email. The email's in the About section of my YouTube page, or you can find it on my website, which I posted a link here too. Happy to take a look at that. Send me an email. We can chat. Yeah, Seth Godin spoke about the MVP and MVA in your interview. Yes, he did. Yeah. I've learned most of what I know from Seth. I've stood on many shoulders. Let's see. Keep the questions coming. I gotta get back to my editing, but I want to continue to provide some value here for you. If you're just tuning in, let me know where you're watching from. I'm watching, or I'm broadcasting from my little home office in Los Angeles, and I'm talking a little bit about some of the things I know a little bit about: brand marketing, advertising, video production, audio podcast production, YouTube, growth hacking, creative stuff. Let's see. AT's watching from New Jersey. Nice. Mark wants to know, who is the first big guest you connected with and how did you reach them? Okay, I'll tell you the quick Seth Godin story, because Seth is probably one of my favorites and has become a close friend. Seth turned me down after many, many invitations. For over a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years, he turned me down. And The story is, I'll try and make it short because it's sort of a long story, but the short story is I was hosting or planning to host a live event back when you could do those in like 2010. And I can't remember, he had written this blog post, something about, how marketers ruin marketing all the time by manipulating people or telling lies or, you know, and he said something, there was a line in it. He said, what I'm saying today might not mean anything to you. You might forget it. It might not be important, but someday it will be important. And I hope it comes back and, you remember it to either haunt you or kick you back into doing the right thing or whatever. And so after 2 years, we had a phone call and I was like, listen, I'm doing this live event. I would really love for you to come. I know that people would show up. And he said, no, respectfully, no, sorry. And then that blog post came back to my mind and I'm like, someday, right now, maybe I'm not important, but someday what I'm doing might be important to you. And I hope that it changes your mind or changes the game. So I sort of took his words and threw them right back at him in his face in a very respectful way. And I think that stunned him because he remembered. And he's like, all right, I'm listening. What's your plan? And at the time he was speaking at TED, the actual TED Talks, which were being held in Southern California in Long Beach. And since I'm in Los Angeles, I said, listen, I'm going to host this event close to where you're already going to be in February of 2010 at the TED conference. Why don't I pick you up in a limo? We'll drive you out to this event. You could show up, do a keynote speech for an hour, and people will love it. It'll be amazing. And what do you think? He's like, well, you can't afford me. I was like, all right, try me. How much does it cost to have you come out and speak for an hour? He said, it's like $100,000. I was like, all right, $100,000 an hour. That's pretty good. And so I said, oh, you're right. I can't afford you. What else is important to you? He said, I've got this new book coming out called Lynchpin. And he had just written this book called Tribes previously. And I said, listen, I've got this tribe. I've got this tribe of people who in the Southern California area that will show up and want to hear you. And it's going to be amazing if you'll just come and speak. He's like, I'll tell you what, if you buy a couple thousand books and you do it in the next 2 weeks, I will come and I'll speak at your event. You can pick me up in a limo at TED and I'll come down and do it. And so I was like, cool. How much are the books? He's like, $20. So I was like, all right, so what you're saying is I've got to come up with $40,000 in the next 2 weeks and I can seal the deal. He's like, yep, send me the receipt once you purchase the books and I'll lock the date and I'll show up. And keep in mind, this was 2010. This was like 24 months into the Great Recession. $40,000 may as well been $40 million to me at the time. I was cash strapped. Business was terrible in the United States. 2010, people, like we were in the heart, knee deep in the Great Recession. It was really bad. But I did have a tribe. I had a tribe of people, maybe 15,000 people on my email list who were part of this tribe in Southern California who wanted to get together, network, learn stuff from smart people, and were starting to be fans of my show. And I said, okay, you're on, let's do it. So I worked up this email and I said to everyone, all right, we got Seth Godin if you want him. And if you want him, you will buy a ticket to this event. I have 2 tickets. I have a $50 ticket. I have a $100 ticket. One is like a VIP ticket, VIP experience. And the other one's just a regular general admission ticket, but you'll get his book with the bundle and yada, yada, yada. So I pushed the button on that email and the ticket sales started to flood in. Within 6 hours, I had grossed about $100,000 in ticket sales. So 800 plus people, maybe almost 900 people had bought a ticket to this event that Seth Godin, it was still tentative. So I pre-sold tickets to an event that was tentative. But, I had the guarantee of Seth, so, I wasn't going to lead anyone astray. So I had $100,000 in the bank. I spent 40 of it on buying books. I sent Seth the receipt and I said, I got you. You're coming to Southern California to speak. and you're going to be talking about your new book, Linchpin, and you're going to be on my show. It's going to be amazing. And he was shocked. He's like, I did it in 6 hours, not in 2 weeks, which I thought was Mount Everest anyway. I didn't think I was ever going to do that. And then he was completely blown away. But anyway, it was one of my greatest triumphs because I was sort of putting several things to the test. What is the value of leading a tribe? And right now I sort of am leading a tribe, just like you might be leading tribes in your business. So I do this because I like to become known as a thought leader in my space. I do my show because I like to be a thought leader in my space. I'm leading out these conversations. I'm the one asking and moderating the discussion. And so I get to lead. It's my privilege to lead out and do this kind of thing. And so what do you do when you have people that care about you, that will opt in, that will stay engaged, like you guys are staying engaged? Sometimes if you ask them to show up and buy a ticket, they will. And it will translate into $100,000, which you can use 40,000 of it to buy books for everyone. Now, if you're doing the math, we had about 900 to 1,000 people show up. I still had 1,000 books left over. What did I do with those? I just sold them to my tribe, the people who couldn't come to the event. I just slowly sold the books and made a profit off of those. So, I made $100,000 plus dollars. The space was donated to me. Volunteers showed up. I paid them. It was a very, very profitable event all the way around. You can catch that interview. It's one of the first I've done. Let me see if I can find it here on the channel. That event was spectacular. It's one of the older. Maybe this is it. Also, some of these videos Seth did not let me film for legal reasons or for confidentiality reasons. So if I put the wrong link in there, I'm sorry. Just there's a whole Seth Godin playlist you can check. One of those is that 2010 event where he talks about being a linchpin. And anyway, so that's how I got Seth. Oh, here's the 5-minute excerpt. Let's see. Yeah, this is really old. Yeah, this is from 2011. Okay, post that one in there. Here's another one. This is like a 5-minute excerpt, a little bit shorter. But yeah, that's how I got Seth. And, some of these other people, like I said, have sort of been convinced because I've already had other smart and important people on the show. And other people have just liked me or have been persistent and tenacious like I did with Seth. I get turned down quite a bit. Some people say yes. Some people say no. My tenacity is probably the key to my success. Let's see. A lot of people are reacting to that story. It's a true story. There's so much more I could tell you, actually, that I didn't say. But so DJ Stevie has a question. I have a question. I'm going to launch a startup in some months. How can I manage the team while I'm just 20 years? Are you talking about your age? Well, age shouldn't matter. Whether you're 20 or if you're 60, I think age has little to do with it. Maybe you're talking about experience, because if you don't have much experience, it doesn't matter how old you are or young you are, that's going to be challenging. I probably need a little bit more information, Stevie, to answer your question appropriately. But if I try and read into what you're asking, it sounds like, how do I manage a team despite not having that much experience? In my opinion, it sort of starts with, understanding the vision and surrounding yourself with people who can complement your skills. And what that means is, if you're not good at managing people, for example, maybe one of your first hires or one of your first collaborators. And remember, if you have a startup, there's lots of ways to get creative with funding. So if you don't have money to pay someone, you could do a trade or a barter for equity, or do some other trading in some area. Like, I'll help you now if you help me later, figure it out. But one of your first hires or first collaborations, if you're not a good manager, might be to find that person who's great at managing people. Maybe you are the visionary, you're the creative, and you thought of the idea and you know what you're going to do, but like you need an operations manager, or even, like a HR kind of person who can, in my world, we call them a production uh, manager or a producer, or even an associate producer, the person who makes all the appointments and corrals all the people and tells them where to be at what time and makes sure that they have the agenda and they know what they're doing and they have all the legal and medical documents signed up. Someone who's like good at details. That's where I would start, Stevie, is make sure that you surround yourself with the right people who can complement. In other words, they have skills that you don't have that can make up the difference for those skills that you might be lacking. And start there. And also, if we think about Jeff Bezos's advice about starting a company or having a staff, Jeff says that if you have, your team should be large enough that you could feed them with a couple of pizzas. And of course, Amazon has thousands and thousands of employees. That's not the point. His executive team, I think, is a pretty close knit, small circle of people, which he could feed with a couple of pizzas. So think of it in those terms. Start small. If you have a startup, you don't need 20 people probably. It might just be you and one other co-founder starting to blaze the trail. Or, maybe you need a financial expert. And so you need an accountant slash, CPA kind of person who's good with the numbers, a CFO type. Or maybe you need legal advice first. Maybe you should choose a legal expert, professional that can help you navigate the waters that you need to navigate. But pick the people that do what you don't do and start there and start small. Hope that helps. All right. Maybe one more question, and then I have got to bounce to do more edits. I'm not seeing too many more questions in here, so I'll just take this opportunity to say thank you so much for everything. Check out some of the latest videos and let me know what you think in the comments. I respond to all comments that are not anonymous. So if you are anonymous and lobbing hand grenades into my YouTube channel, you're not going to get answered. But if you leave something thoughtful, a question, or you want to say something to me personally, leave it there. I'll respond to you. Or if you want to contact me in person, my email is there to send me an email. Thank you always for all the love and support. Appreciate everything you do. Peace out.